Hello, everyone, and welcome to SCORE Fairfield County's live webinar, Are You Ready to Start a Business? I'm Tim Ryan, the webinar coordinator and a business mentor here at SCORE Fairfield County, and I'll be your host. Our presenter today is Joan Mattikow. More on Nina in just a minute. First, some brief info on SCORE. There's over 320 offices, 11,000 volunteers nationwide. We're the volunteer arm of the Small Business Administration. SCORE Fairfield County itself has 130 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise. We offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. First, free one-on-one counseling. Second, educational workshops and webinars, over 150 per year. And 3, an extensive resources on our website, including Word and Excel templates to help you build your business plan. SCORE puts on many webinars each month. Look for future events on our webinar calendar at fairfieldcounty.score.org. Some useful information about today's event. If you have a question, please use the chat window at any time during the presentation. It is located in the lower part of your screen. Our webinar will end at 1 o'clock. To respect your time, the session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available on our website within the next couple of days. Now our speaker. Joan Mattikow has broad experience covering everything from startups to multi-million-dollar companies with 100+ employees and sales to every major retailer in the US. She's an award-winning creator of new product, published author, and has initiated, developed, marketed, and owns an extensive audio catalog with over 700 titles. Experienced in intellectual property and overseas importing, she has demonstrated sales success across all channels of communication, mass distribution. Welcome, Nina, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. And next screen, what we're talking about here is, are you ready to start a business? The bottom line of being ready to start a business is doing your homework. I cannot stress that adequately, because writing a business plan is all based on assumptions, and you've really got to understand those assumptions. So where do you start, and what do you need to do? Next slide. I'm going to divide this. There are service business and product business. If it's a service business, exactly what is the service? And what does the service provide? Does it target a particular age or demographic group? Is it within a specified area? What problem does it solve? And most of all, do you have any experience in this area? And how do you plan to get customers? If it's a product business, exactly what is the product? What's it used for? Does it again target a particular age or demographic? Do you have experience in the area? What are the components of the product? And how do you plan to produce it? And most of all, who's your target buyer? How do you plan to sell your product to that buyer? Next. So let's talk about what I call the competitive analysis. This was a tool that I developed in my company, and I required my salesmen to all use it. Once a year, we all did a competitive analysis. So I always had my finger on what was happening out there. And if something new was coming along that I wasn't aware of or wasn't in my area, it's a very, very important thing to do. And it's a loosely used term, but it is probably the single most gathering of information you need to do. All business plans are based on assumptions. And when you do a business plan, you must be doing it based on information you've gathered that is real. The key to a good competitive analysis is the search terms you will use to search the web. Try to be specific. For instance, scarves for women versus Navajo designed scarves for women. Much more specific. Applesauce versus Fuji apple, natural applesauce. When you search the web, whether by Google or any other search engine, you do not want the ads. Ads that come up say ads, ignore them. Now, set up an Excel spreadsheet to do this with columns. Next slide will show it. This is part of it. Set this up. There are other parts of this sheet that'll go straight across that you'll have eventually. But first and foremost is your internet search terms. And I can't stress how important. Now, when you go to Google, what's the position on the page? Number 1, number 6. And again, remember that we are discarding ads. Title of the site and the web address, and then you will see a key selling phrase. That will be the first sentence that you will see on the site. It'll be a sentence like, the most terrific purse you will ever buy, how to carry your phone while running. But it'll be one sentence and it'll try to impart what is special. Next. So a key selling phrase is something that is, you pay attention to, because when you write one, this is going to be very key. Pay attention to the models used. You age, type, executive, homebody, trendy. You've heard the phrase, one picture is worth 1,000 words. This is so true of websites. Next slide. Now, this is continuing your Excel spreadsheet. Put down the apparent target customer, who you perceive it is. And it'll be kind of easy after you really look at that opening page. What do they say are the unique product features and uses? Write them down, pricing, and then your comments on what you've seen. Next slide. Now, go through each site thoroughly, all pages. Go to About Us, the company, product descriptions, anything unique about the product or service, and record your comments. And believe me, during this process, you may very well pick up ideas to incorporate into your product or services. Next. Now comes the cost issue. You've got to have a real handle on your costs, all your costs. And what's included in the word costs? If it's a product, all components of the product by volume purchased. And as you know, by different volumes, you'll get a better price. But when costing out a product, this is something to always take into account, such as asking for 500, 1,000, 5,000. Where purchased and who pays freight? If you include it. Where are you storing the components? Your home or a storage facility? Include a cost. Shipping to a store you pay, included. Online, you will have a cost. For instance, on Amazon, if they are going to warehouse and ship, you will have a cost for the warehousing and you will have a cost for the shipping. Do you have a website? And what does the maintenance cost? Do you get analytics? And if so, include. Selling on Amazon, have a Shopify store, eBay, include all the costs. And then again, staff, overhead, all has to be included. So how do we put all this together? Next slide. If your business is a service business, What area are you servicing? How are you getting there? And what's the cost of that? What supplies do you need to have? What do they cost? What insurance do you need? Cost? Will you have employees? You will pay payroll. Cost of that. Will you have a website? Again, cost. Will you have analytics? Again, a cost. So once more, how do we put this all together? Next. Having identified your target audience and gotten a good estimate of your costs, you can now see if you can be competitively priced or not. Next slide. Now you have to evaluate your resources. Money. What does it take to get this going? Do you have funds? Do you have to borrow? What is that going to take? Do you have the time? You have experience. Example of that. I spoke with a woman who was about to buy a Subway franchise. She had never been in a Subway. She had never been cooking. She didn't know anything about servicing a customer. So clearly, she had no experience to do this. They sold her on the fact of all the money that she could make. Then you should have the availability of a lawyer and an accountant. Number one, for the reason of how to form your business, what it should be, and an accountant when you have questions with numbers and how to figure out what's deductible and all the other questions that will arise. Next. So a product-based business, this is a whole other ballgame. And again, do you have the monetary resources and the skills to do this and fund? You need to have a very realistic business plan. Product development, the creation. Are you creating? Is someone else? And by the way, if someone else is creating for you, there is a little document called Work for Hire, and that should be given to anybody who works for you to create something that you are going to use. There's a very simple reason for that. You want to own the product. And without a work for hire agreement, it's very easy if you become successful for somebody to come back and say, no, I did that product. So watch out for that. Production, the materials needed, an artist if needed, shipping, delivery to you, facility, and shipping to your customer. Marketing online, everybody says, no problem, I'll put up a website. Well, how are you going to bring traffic to that website? Or are you going to start with Amazon and sell on there? And Amazon has costs. To become an Amazon seller, you must get all those costs and you must incorporate them. Your own website, wonderful. But is there SEO marketing? And how are people being driven to your website? In marketing to retail, you've got to be able to sustain returns. Whatever you sell to a retailer is not done and gone. They have the right, almost everyone I've encountered these days, to return. And how about salespeople? Are you the salesperson or do you have to hire? Warehousing and processing orders. You'll need some kind of a system. You'll need some kind of a space, a sales and marketing plan, if necessary, trademark, copyright, and patent, structure of your company. And if you have a partner, an agreement is critical. Have your attorney and you do the agreement. Don't do it yourself because I assure you, you will miss something. Next. For a service-based business, are you planning a national or a regional service business? Do you have the monetary resources and skills to do this and fund it? Now, again, a realistic business plan. If on-site service, estimate the travel time, supplies, people, and vehicles needed. Marketing online, again, Amazon, other sites, your website, marketing via advertising, salesperson, personnel needed. Again, salaries and benefits will come up. And this, in many cases, can also be a work for hire if somebody is interested in doing that. Your sales and marketing plan, and if a unique service, trademark it, you can do that. Structure of your company, again, if a partnership, you must have an agreement, and that's where your attorney comes in. Next. It gets to decision time. The key to success is having done your homework and making decisions based on facts. A good business grows in stages. Decide on how to start and be very realistic about your resources. So many startups are totally unrealistic and initially get off to a nice start and do not have the resources to continue, and that's it. Next. I'm very happy that you tuned in, and I hope that if I've been helpful and can answer any questions or offer help, you call SCORE and make an appointment with me. I'm not a consultant. I've been in your shoes. I've made the mistakes. But bottom line, I built a business that employed 100 people, sold to every major retailer, US and online, and I did a lot of manufacturing in China. I love seeing startups succeed. But now let me share with you just a couple of points of general thoughts. Starting a business, the advice initially that you do not want is everybody loves it. My family thinks it's terrific. People who love you, know you, or are friends are not objective. In many cases, I have suggested that people do focus groups, which are extremely, extremely helpful. And in a focus group, you can then, and they're not terribly expensive to do, they can be done at colleges do them, they can be done by other people who run them if you look on Google, and they're not people who know you. And it's very, very important to understand that if you're starting to do a business, you have a product that people want or will want, and that you have a way and a methodology to sell it. Otherwise, I think you're starting with 1 foot behind you and not the way you want to be. The other thing I can tell you is sourcing. When you are looking for sources, whether this is for products, supplies, anything, visit them. Don't buy from just online, particularly in the case of, let's talk about printing. If you're creating a product, obviously you're going to need labels, but not just labels, probably packaging. And whoever your supplier is, a wonderful tip is to have the supplier within travel time for you. Go and visit. I once got a quote for printing that was, I couldn't believe how inexpensive it was. And it was for an insert that went into a product. And he was probably 30% lower than every other quote. Well, I went to visit. I went to visit the supplier, and the supplier wasn't really even a printer. It was kind of an independent group that would make it up on the computer and print them out. It had no ability to do it on the kind of paper that I needed to have it on, or which in my case, I was using kind of a low-grade cardboard. And it just totally wouldn't have worked if I had done it blindly. So you have to be really careful about that. And I say that about any source that you may be using. And visit, look, call, ask for references. Don't be ashamed to do that. It's a very smart move. So at this point, I'd like to ask if there are any questions that I can answer.
Okay, yeah, so with the remaining time, we'll have time for a lot of questions. We'll take as many as we can, so please submit them either via the chat feature in the lower portion of your screen or the Q&A button. There is one question that came in, and the question is, what is SEO marketing?
SEO marketing is online monitoring. For instance, if you put up a site, how many people tune into the site? When do they tune in? How long do they stay on the site? That's very important information to know. There are experts who do it. It's not for an amateur. And you would need somebody to do that. And what it does is really gives you a very fast idea of what's working and what's not working. And I strongly recommend it if you are putting up a website.
Yeah, so that's search engine optimization is what it stands for, right?
Right.
Yeah, digital marketing can be a complicated area. Yeah.
Very complicated.
Mm-hmm. So can you share with some of your experiences with your intellectual property that you've seen?
Oh, let me share a really good one. When you manufacture, I did a lot of manufacturing in China. And China is famous for knockoffs. And I had worked with this one factory. They signed an agreement with me that they would not show my product in their showroom. They would not discuss my product with anybody. I had a whole form for that. And I stop in one day when I'm there to the factory, and there in the showroom is my whole product line just sitting there. So anybody who knew was new and came in saw my whole line. As a result of that, I did have a knockoff, and I was faced with bringing a lawsuit to stop it. Very expensive lesson. So when you are working with any supplier, I strongly recommend you make that a point if it's a product. Another thing I can share with you is the reason I'm so focused on the competitive analysis is at one point I was in the audio publishing business, and a big part of my business was baby lullabies, go to sleep, and that type of music. So one of my salesmen who was in a very remote area, somewhere, I think it was Montana, had done a competitive analysis in a number of the stores there. And he shows me that Sony had come in with a line that was priced $1 less than mine. And with that, I was just about to go to an appointment with Walmart. Now, if I hadn't had that information, I probably would have been out of the picture with Walmart. So I was able to completely slant my presentation to the fact of what it contained, why it was so good, and I made it 50 cents less than the other fellow. And I got the order. The competitive analysis is an ongoing process that throughout your business, never get lazy and don't do it, is the lesson learned there.
Right. It can, a lot of people don't know where to start. We've often suggested, especially people just starting off who want to do it on their own. There are some simple tools out there. Most of them are available at your public library. One of them, for instance, is a software company called Reference USA. And if you've got a library card, you can sign into your library site from your home and go into Reference USA. And we've had one client do that. For instance, he wanted to know how many pizza places were in the town he was, and you could go there and find out there's 39 restaurants in that town that sold pizza, and it would map out the locations of his competition, or what would be his competition, and he was off doing his visits to those stores. And so it doesn't have to be an expensive thing necessarily.
Not at all. You can Google it in
Right.
many cases. You can all over, if you're not traveling, you can sit at your computer, and if you were manufacturing, let's say, let's call it a chip of some kind, that a special was GMO, all of that, you could get on your computer and you could search it pick out various cities and towns. You would find out if it's only online, if it's done that way in a store. You would find a lot of things out. It's the whole thing of doing the homework and of being prepared for what may come up. Now, also, one thing I didn't mention, if you are going to sell in retail, there is generally a cost that you must include for display. The chains charge for everything. If you want to be on a hang tab, you pay for it. If you want to be on the top shelf, you pay for it. And you've got to find out all of these kind of questions as to what are the costs. They're what I call the hidden gems. And they figure in here, and honestly, they can make what looks like a profitable deal not so profitable. So that's for retail. And it's not that different online. There are all kinds of costs. I have heard so many people say, I'm not going to bother to put up a website. I don't want to spend the money. I'll start on Amazon. Well, that's not really the answer, because there are costs there. They're not just taking your product, because they like it. And to get into what their top sellers are, you have to have sales, you have to have recommendations. There's a lot that goes into it. If you're thinking of Amazon, oh, please do your homework.
Right. Another common mistake is people starting off is they'll say, I have no competition. Nobody makes this, or nobody services this now. Only me.
Oh, I've heard that. But you know what? I haven't found that yet. There's always something like what you're doing. May not be the exact thing, but you've got to find your hook. That's critically important, because there isn't anything you're going to come up with that isn't out there on the market in some form. The issue is, what can you do to be more appealing, and to whom are you selling it? What you're selling to a senior citizen does not have the same key costs as selling to a teenager, if not even close.
Right,
So you
right.
got to be kind of really sure about who you think you're selling to. And this is what I referenced in the website of seeing the pictures and the models they use. That'll tell you right away.
Yeah. We do have another question that came in. They were wondering how you determine your costs, and do you annualize your costs? Do you divide it up by product sale to determine your profit per unit, or how do you even approach the cost area when you're first starting out and you have very little to go on?
All right, let's say it's a product. You take that sheet that we were doing and you get all the costs involved. And that's what I was talking about at the very beginning. If it's a product, every cost there means every component, every assembly, storage, warehouse. You've got to get all of your costs together for the actual product, just to the point of shipping and warehousing. Then you take those costs and you figure, where are you selling? And then you add those costs. Now, I don't like a margin, ideally, from cost to wholesale. I shoot for 50%. And then again, double it for the retail price. So you've got to, it's really just listing everything and the costs, and do it by, on quantity. This is why I mentioned you can quote 500, 1,000, and 5,000. The reason I say to do that is take the 5,000 cost, not the 1,000 cost, because ultimately that's where you hope to be. And there's a world of difference. And if a supplier doesn't think you can do any quantity, trust me, he doesn't really want to take your business. So get those costs, then divide it, and there you go. And I see a question here, when costing, do you include an income for yourself? Absolutely. That's done when you do your business plan. And don't be unrealistic, because you have to have in the business plan, which will take into account you're finding out all of this information. Is there room for you to have a good salary? There may not be. You may have to rethink your products.
Got it. Julie's also asking, what made you decide to start your own business?
I love business, first of all. And I was married, had 2 children, and I worked prior to getting married. And when my children were in school, I started my business out of my home. My son, by the way, was my first shipping clerk. And I didn't grow big until my children were full-time in school. And it's something that I just loved doing.
Got it. And she's also asking, how did you go about funding your business?
Initially, I had a base amount that I had, and I started very small. In my case, the money was used initially for buying licenses, because initially I was doing licensed products. And I'm reading this chat, a global law firm or whatever. Well, I must tell you, I was very fortunate in that my husband is an attorney. So initially, he doesn't do the type of work I needed, but he was able to guide me a little bit in the beginning. And then after that, I will tell you that regarding using lawyer or lawyers, don't do anything over the internet. Meet the lawyer, see if he's done any work like you're looking to do, and ask for a reference, and call the reference. It's very, very important to have good legal advice. And the agreements that I talk about, for instance, a work for hire agreement, it's very important. It's a little document and you can get that on LegalZoom. So don't ignore, that as some of the work that you can get.
Right. So the initial question really was, how did you, it sounded like you had to protect your copyright.
Oh, yeah.
And how did you go about doing that? Do lawyers actually work on a contingency basis on some of that stuff, or is it?
No lawyer works on a contingency basis that I've ever met. Okay, but what I did learn with a lot of searching was when it comes to filing a copyright, a trademark, a patent, you can do it online and you go to usgov.com. That's where you can search trademarks. You can search if you want to title your product, for instance, The Little Engine That Could. Now, we all know there's a book that would show up. But then you go back and say, if it's about a train, The Little Blue Train, and you look that up. And if it's not shown, you can copyright and you can protect yourself online without an attorney.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We've done webinars in the past, one on copyrights, a separate one on trademarks.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I think it's something that people forget about when they're launching their business, that they
very often forget about. Because if you've got something good, I assure you there's somebody going to not looking to knock you off.
Right. We just had a question. What was the book that you published? You said you were an author.
Well, I did several books. I did one book. I did a baby book, for your first baby. And with it, I packaged 2 CDs of lullabies, but it was a baby book, but larger than most, and sold a great deal of those. I did another book on the history of radio and everything that had been done there. I wrote the scripts for a series I did called Do You Remember, which were literally anthologies of a given year. And I wrote the scripts for those and produced them. It's a question here, what is LegalZoom? There is a website. And LegalZoom is a company. And you can pay for a lot of services, but there's a lot of information there, important. And frankly, if you have something that you're questioning and you're not sure if it's protectable, please make an appointment with me and let's talk.
Right.
Okay, so are there any other?
I don't see any other questions coming in, so we might as well wrap it up, I guess. As a reminder, a recording of this webinar will be available soon on our website. Please check out our website for information on upcoming webinars as well. Again, SCORE offers free individual counseling, so please use the link on the screen or visit our website and click Request a Mentor. We are available for sessions via phone, email, or video currently. Also, please fill out your evaluations that will be sent shortly to you. On behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's SCORE live webinar. In closing today, a big thank you to Nina Joan Mattikow. Thanks, Nina. It was very interesting.
Okay, my pleasure, and I hope to meet some of the attendees via Zoom or phone.
Excellent.